Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the 20th meeting of the Board of Lake County Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use in our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present.
Commissioner Young.
Present.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Present. Okay, we're going to begin our first public comment portion, but we're going to take a few things a little out of order. We have a special recognition for a friend of the county, Mr. Peter Zahersky. Madam Clerk, do you want to dive in on that one? You got that look.
The whole
Thing, yes, ma'am. See what you started, Kathy?
So, certificate of recognition with appreciation to Peter K. Zahersky, Esquire, for his service as Director of Coastal Development to the Lake County, Ohio Port and Economic Development Authority. Whereas before Peter K. Zahersky began his career with the Lake County, Ohio Economic Development Authority in 2013 as Director of Coastal Development and as Deputy Director of Planning and Development, he attended Cleveland Marshall College of Law, taking various classes under the tutelage of Professor John Plechnik. And whereas Peter has focused on the execution of the Port Authority's strategic development initiatives throughout the coastline of Lake County, to include sourcing and structuring financing, as well as overseeing the development process. His perseverance has led to successes such as the Fairport Harbor Bikeway and an ADA accessible canoe and kayak launch in Eastlake. Most recently, Peter successfully assisted with the relocation of Produce Packaging Incorporated from Cleveland to the city of Willoughby Hills. This relocation brought over 300 jobs to the community. Now, therefore, this Board of Commissioners in and for Lake County, Ohio, express their sincere appreciation to Peter Zahersky and extend genuine gratitude for his commitment to the Lake County community. We wish him all the best in his future endeavors using his exceptional talents and skills.
Thank you, Jennifer. Peter, do you want to come up and share a few words? I think it's fair to say we're not losing you. We're gaining an ally in another area. Would you care to share?
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it. And let me actually start off by saying, Commissioner Young, it's great to see you in person. You're looking well. Happy you were here today. Thank you very much for this recognition, Commissioners. It's greatly appreciated. Commissioner Plechnik, as you said, it's funny where life takes you. Was it now 10 years ago almost? You were teaching my estates and trusts class, which I don't think I ever told you, but that was my highest score of the written section of the bar exam. So you did a great job, but it's good to see you in this position, and I appreciate all the support you've expressed for the Port Authority and the economic development work that they do. I couldn't have asked for a better place to begin my career. The amount of diverse things that I got to see and work on and be part of, it's unparalleled. I really had a great launching pad here, and I'm never going to forget that. It's something that will always mean a lot to me, and you will always have an inside ally at Team NEO and with the state of Ohio. I'm already working on projects that involve Lake County, some with downtown Painesville, some with site searches. We've gotten leads where I read through what the company's looking for, and I can immediately think of a place in Lake County that would fit, and they're places that I've been working on for the last 7 years, and I want to see them developed and filled, so I'm going to keep pushing for that. I think you are very well positioned relative to other counties. Now that I've been at Team NEO for a month and I've seen where other counties are in terms of what they're doing, I think that this county's focus on the lakefront really is forward thinking. You know, we're good in Northeast Ohio, we're good at creating jobs, we're good at fostering industry. The hard part is filling those jobs, and we need people to do that. And talent attraction and quality of life are huge economic drivers. I've got friends who have jobs that they can work remotely, and they've chosen to just live somewhere because they like it, and they're online all the time. They don't have to be in an office, and I think we can compete in offering that quality of life so that people will just want to be here because of what we can do for them. Between the coastline, the other amenities, our school systems, our housing, I think this county is uniquely positioned to do very well, not just in the region, not just in the state, but across the country. And I think you also have a very, very worthy successor in Patrick Mohorsic. We all think about legacy. We all think about, next steps to the things we've been working on. And I cannot tell you how comfortable it makes me knowing that Patrick is taking the helm of what I was working on. He is going to do great things. And I don't think I need to ask, but I will say it, just keep on giving him your support. Give the port your support. You've got a great team there. You've got some unique opportunities to make a huge impact in this region, not even just Northeast Ohio. I think on the Great Lakes, we can set an example out here for lakefront development, lakefront amenities that other states, what do they call them in Canada, provinces, will be envious of and will try to emulate. So let's keep up the good work. You've still got me in your corner, so looking forward to future opportunities. And again, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot.
There you go, gentlemen. Anything you want to add? Oh, don't run away. We got Plechnik now. There's going to be pictures involved. Come on now. Gentlemen, he's your student. You got anything you want to add? He's your student.
Well, I said this morning, it's funny where life takes you. I never would have imagined seeing Peter's face in class to seeing his face here behind the podium in the Board of Commissioners in the 5th floor at 105 Main Street. There's nothing more rewarding for a professor than the success of their students. And Peter has succeeded and succeeded and succeeded. But what is even more rewarding is that they're not just his successes. The work that he's done for the Port Authority has made a great difference for Lake County, for Northeast Ohio, for our state. And so as Peter has grown and done greater and greater things, he hasn't done it just for himself. He's done it for our community. So there are many, many students I'm proud of, but Peter, you're one of my favorites because you've always looked outward, not inward. And your success, the way you measure it, is the success that you share with others. I would just add that I probably wouldn't be sitting behind this dais but for the work that Peter and I were able to do together for Willoughby Hills produce packaging. Willoughby Hills is a political subdivision with many challenges. But in the heat and light and the debate, some people kept working for the good of their community. And the very first thing I said, my very first event, I said, we need to fill the Sam's Club building in Willoughby Hills. It's the biggest building in our city. We've got to have a business there. And we had an opportunity with produce packaging, but we needed help. We needed our Port Authority to step up. We needed Jobs Ohio to step up. We needed to bring everyone together for the right mix of tax abatements and loans so that we could bring those 300 plus jobs to our community. And Peter didn't hesitate. He was on site there, ready to go. I still remember his shock as he walked into the Sam's Club building. He said, "Professor, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm about to bring over 300 jobs to Northeast Ohio, to Willoughby Hills. What about you?" "Well, it sounds good to me." Well, Peter didn't disappoint. He delivered for Willoughby Hills, as he always has for all of Lake County. And I'm so excited to see what you do next, Peter, because I have a feeling this is the humblest award you're ever going to win.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, Professor.
There you go. Commissioner Young, anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, so many people, they heard about the Port Authority, and they think in terms of a big dock somewhere in Lake County, and huge cargo ships coming and going, and Peter's down there with his little checklist, how many crates of cotton have we gotten in today, etc. But you really, in many ways, led the whole charge down there in reference to keeping an open door here in Lake County. You know, there's nothing more important than business development. And as you said, we need talent. In order to attract that talent, we have to offer a quality of life that's special. Today, it's not just a matter of, you know, I can go to San Francisco and make $14 an hour. I can go to Solon and make 12. I'm going to San Francisco. You know, the questions are asked like, who has the best bike path system? Who has the best beaches? Who has the best wineries, museums, etc., places, schools? All those questions are asked in depth. And our Port Authority, you guys have been so forward thinking. After being in Columbus all those years and seeing the way that most of the counties in the state operate, it seems like they're still just dragging along somewhere in the 19th century. You know, just hoping that something will happen. You can just imagine them sitting around their desk hoping the phone will ring today. But here in Lake County, you guys have reached out throughout northeastern Ohio, even throughout the country, and brought in special organizations that fit our culture and offer great jobs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, and I'm excited about it. But at the same time, I wish you could hang around for a few more years. So we're so sorry to see you go. Job well done, and keep up the good work with NEO. They need your help.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you for your time in Columbus. Getting the legislation passed that enabled us to use the 2% of the bed tax for coastal development. I mean, we all know that's a good thing, but the impact of that is going to be felt for decades to come, generations to come. And you helping with us getting that done, I mean, it made my job so much easier, because so many of these grants and other things that are available, they want matching funds. And we were way more competitive than other communities because we had that to point to say we can match this funding, or if you give us this planning or engineering grant, we have money to build this thing. This isn't just a plan that's going on a shelf. So that was huge. I appreciate you doing everything you did. Commissioner Hamercheck, thank you for passing that at the commissioner level. That is something that is really just, is huge and will continue to be. And also I have to thank you for the capital grant at Stanton Park, which Patrick is now having all the fun of working with ODOT and ODNR and the Army Corps and everything else that goes with it. But I don't know if any of you have been out there. Tim Brown just sent me a picture the other day. It's coming along beautifully. That is going to be the largest beach nourishment erosion control project on Lake Erie. So once again, Lake County is on the cutting edge of what's happening. And Commissioner, you were a part of that too, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Bless you. Do you mind if we get a photo and give you your certificate of recognition?
Sounds good.
Oh, bless you, gentlemen.
Ready? I gotta do 3. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, now we have a little bit of a departure from our normal course. We're going to, well, let's hold on. Let's, how about we do the special resolutions? Just get those, then we can finish up the rest of the public portion. If there's no objection, we'll do the special resolution since we're sort of in that goodwill gesture mode here.
I don't feel like it today.
You don't feel like Bob Humbug? You know, there's a long list of people here. So, Madam Clerk, if we could do special resolutions 18 through 27, we can read them in, but we'll vote them through as a block. With the consent of the board, we can do it that way. We're good?
Yes, we're good.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. In special resolutions, resolution in recognition of Health Commissioner Ron Graham's leadership. Resolution in recognition of Wycliffe Fire Chief Jim Powers and acknowledging his extraordinary continued efforts and dedication to the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Christy Armstrong for her extraordinary continued effort and dedication as part of the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Mackenzie DePerna for her extraordinary continued effort and dedication as part of the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Ariel Hilliard for her extraordinary continued effort and dedication as part of the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Bert Meckenbauer for his contributions at Lake County vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Katie Stromp for her extraordinary continued effort and dedication as part of the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of Carol Tackett for her extraordinary continued effort and dedication as part of the Lake County Health District's vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. Resolution in recognition of the Lake County General Health District, Northern Career Institute nursing students, Medical Reserve Corps, and county volunteer contributions at Lake County vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19. And the last resolution in recognition of first responder contributions at Lake County vaccine clinics in response to COVID-19.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have a motion to adopt that block of resolutions?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion. I'm going to take the little liberty and jump in here. Ron, I got to tell you, it's been interesting. I have to say, from the very early hours of this pandemic, it was good to get to know you. I think it's fair to say that Joe Busher, Jason Boyd, Mayor Morley from Eastlake, who's president of the Mayors and Managers, we all pretty much agreed that we're going to plow the road and let you do the things that you're good at. Dealing with a room full of police chiefs, fire chiefs, and elected officials, you didn't need that. You really stepped up. You did a great deal. But I must say that one of the things that really impressed us was how you defended and supported your crew. That was something I don't know that your own crew even realizes how much you've done. When anybody had anything, and I'll say even a wisp of anything negative to say, you'd set the record straight, and people would leave satisfied that, oh, we didn't know that. You took the time to educate. I remember the call with the governor's office when you're, and I'm terrible with names, but the gal who did the statistics, impressive. She literally held her own against the two top state people and worked through the math. That was back when we went to purple, if anybody's wondering.
We're still there today, actually.
And I also have to say, the fact that you've supported your board, and I have to tell you, I'm impressed with the way your board has supported the health district and challenged the health district to be the best. They took nothing for granted, and it's paid off. We've set so many standards here in the state of Ohio. Again, where best practices didn't exist with your leadership, and I've said this time and again around here, we would be nothing without our crew. You've acknowledged that you would be nothing without your crew. And that takes a great leader in order to acknowledge the power of their staff. And moving on to Chief Powers. Wow. I know we were adapting and adjusting, and when Chief Powers sat down and started putting plans together, and his execution of those plans, his ability to work with peers, volunteers, subordinates, it was impressive. And when he would speak, people would listen. The command that he had was earned. The ability to adjust and adapt, phenomenal. And just the way that he, again, I can't get into every single person here because it's just too numerous, but I have to mention you two specifically. That's amazing. And Chief Powers exemplifies what it is to be a public servant. His caring, his passion, his commitment, the regard that he has from his fellow chiefs, it shows. And that says a great deal. You might have noticed there's a lot of alphas in the room, and everybody behaves, and everybody pulls in the same direction, and that's what this long list of resolutions exemplifies, the fact of so many individuals pulling together as a unit, pulling together for the good of the county, and identifying deficiencies and adjusting to them, making us better, and then planning for contingencies. And when those contingencies come up, executing with great skill. That I just can't overemphasize. With that though, my colleagues, Ron, John, you want to add anything?
I just want to say that it's Lake County. We all came together, and good things have happened. I think it just demonstrates just the humanity, the humane nature of our leaders, Ron, the chief, so many others. Your hard work, John. You're out there every day. Both Johns. I was the danger. I was the one breathing the wrong germs. I had to be isolated. We should probably continue that process. Lock me up somewhere. Don't tell the sheriff that. But no, really, there's a lot of love in this community, and I think it was expressed through this emergency. So I was proud to be a sort of a distant part of it for this period of time. Hopefully, I can be more engaged into the future.
Well said. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Pleshnik.
Mr. President, 3 quick things. First, my thanks to Ron Graham. I'll confess that I was very concerned, and I think in line with many of the local businesses after the shutdown, I was very concerned about the loss of our individual liberties, the damage to our local economy, of many of the measures, some of which went too far. And when I stepped in the commissioner's chair, my initial thought was that anyone with the label health district would be concerned with only safety. And safety is important, but to the point where you say, I'll never drive a car again, I won't breathe oxygen because it might explode, we can take safety beyond common sense. So I was really surprised when I saw the common sense approach that Health Commissioner Ron Graham brought to the table. I trust his judgment. I'm grateful for his leadership. And when I saw time and time again issues where the state had not given full guidance and common sense was lacking in how policies were being implemented, Ron never hesitated to jump in. So I think he is the exemplar of the virtue of local control, and I say thank you on behalf of Lake County for helping us to get through this difficult time. Second, I know that Commissioner Graham couldn't have done it without our fire departments. We've talked about Chief Powers, but there are so many others who followed his leadership. And when you talk to other counties, they say, how did you get your fire chiefs and your fire departments to work with you? It's like nobody got anyone to do anything. They stepped up. To Commissioner Young's point, it shows the humanity. I'd say it shows the family aspect of Lake County. We may be a big county in terms of population, but we're a small place in terms of how we come together. And lastly, in terms of family, I can't resist saying this with one of my students in the crowd. When I saw Carol Tackett there at the Perry Senior Center working at the vaccine clinic, and she's like, "Oh, it's good to see you, Professor." You know, my daughter Sarah loved having you in class. I realized once again the element of family here. We all came together, friends, family, volunteers, and we got through this difficult time. And that's why, as we reopen, Lake County is only going to go further and faster ahead of the competition. But we couldn't have done it without our health district. We couldn't have done it without the volunteers and the fire departments. And you led the way, Ron, so we thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Ron, do you want to, you're here, you want to say a few words?
Can you hear me? Okay, Mr. President? Yeah, I want to thank everybody, and I really mean everybody, from every parent to every brother, every sister, every employer, to get through Lake County. While public health the health district is separate from the county, it's a political subdivision basically in and of itself. Public health system is everybody. So from the hospital to Lake Tran to all those partners, and honestly, I need a full-page ad in the News Herald. Maybe they'll grant me a free one to really list the names and the members that have helped us here in Lake County. And you got to remember common sense. I appreciate all the comments. I was told early on, everything begins and ends with me. That's quite daunting when you look behind you. There's nobody really there at first, right? They kind of run away and you bring them back together. But it was a phenomenal response. We're way ahead of the state with vaccine while still promoting businesses. Suicides are concerns, mental health are concerns, domestic violence, unemployment. All those are factors we have to weigh with the vaccine, which is again is safe, but also a voluntary issue. We hope that everybody gets it, but I understand and respect everybody's opinion. And I think that was important. That kept me up at night, many nights, is looking at how do we listen to everyone, support everyone while making the best choice we can. And I'm glad to say I hope that everybody is understanding the complexity of it. When you sign your contract to be health commissioner in 2013 and your building burns down, you get Ebola and a pandemic and like a 5-year stretch, there's no playbook for that. There's no plan for that. So you do it on the fly, and there's no better place I'd like to be than Lake County to have those challenges, to rise above those challenges. Everybody's patience and gratitude is just so forthcoming. And trying to answer 2,000 emails a week is a daunting process. But again, we did it with your support, your consultation, and we have 65 employees at the health district. We had 100 pieces of equipment on our network. We're at 300 pieces of communication technology on that network. This shows you the kind of response we needed to get out in the community, and now we're going door to door, business by business, to knock out those vaccines as much as we can and help anyone. Before this, I don't know if anybody knew the health department more than a food license, a swimming pool license, a nutrition program. Now we're a household name. It's a great opportunity for public health to be bigger, better, bolder, modernized, and I hope that you'll see even better changes coming through legislation, the right kind of legislation to help us to continue to protect everybody in Lake County. I would like to introduce Diane Demeade. She is our new nursing director. Do you want to say a few words about our future clinics and plans you got?
If you really want to, but I'm going to have to correct how you said my last name.
Okay, please do. It's just Diane to me, so yeah, go ahead, Diane.
You're having too much fun with it.
Yeah.
Well, at least you didn't call her. At least you didn't call her Dylan or something. You know,
I'm waiting for someday I'm going to get something with Dylan on it. I'm really waiting for it.
that's an inside joke, folks. But there we go.
My parents can't spell, sorry. I'll just apologize for them now. So I'm Diane Demeade. I'm the new nursing director at the health district. I started March 25th, and our first megapod was March 31st. Thank you. And since then, we have done roughly 20,000 vaccinations in about 6 weeks. In the entire subsect of the population that's vaccinated, we're directly responsible for 60 to 70% of those. So there's names on these resolution lists. We can't name everybody. We can pull out the people that this would have crumbled without all of them, but we needed every single person to do this. What did I forget?
You're good.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Mayor Morley, I believe you would be able to add some words of encouragement here. I know you've been a key player in keeping things moving.
John and the group back there. That they're,
Oh,
the sheriff,
I know you've been a
because
key
the
player.
sheriff because the sheriff has a weapon that I won't talk all day, and dinner will have to be served. Good to see you, Commissioner Young. Peter, congratulations. Peter always did well for the city of Eastlake also. So Ron Graham, Commissioner Hammercheck, we started this one. I still remember the first meeting we had at the health district with the mayors and managers when this first was told about the pandemic. And I'm here from the mayors and managers, myself especially, of what Ron has done for this county and for all of us as leaders in this county. I said it from day one, and Commissioner Hammercheck and I've always discussed about it because they know my stance on politics, is that we did have no nonsense, as Commissioner Plenchik always says. We did keep the parties that, especially, and I gave homage before on, it was an election year, and we still all worked together last year when people were running for positions, and that was the great thing. And we've always told Ron has always had our back, and we're always going to have Ron's back. Again, there's just so much of a list. The commissioners, EMA Director Joe Busher, Jason Boyd, the fire chiefs were involved with all of us. Katie Berger from Dave Joyce's office, anything we needed. Lake Health, the Cleveland Clinic, the mayors and managers, our safety forces, service departments for these pods. As also John always says, is the people around us are that, so I do have to throw out for my administrative assistant that handles all this, Judy Moran, that keeps us all updated with the, I don't get 2,000 emails, I only get 1,999 a week or a day, that keeps us all updated. And the meetings that we've had at night via text, via calls between myself, you, Joe Busher, and Ron Graham has been phenomenal. We know everything as it goes, as it comes, and again, it's been great working with everyone, and everyone should give themselves a round of applause for what we have accomplished in this county working together, and I hope that we can continue to work together. And great job again, Ron. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well said. If there's no further discussion, anyone else care to chime in? All right, then, Madam Clerk, roll call, please. This is on the entire block that we've talked about.
Commissioner Plenchik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you. And Ron, of course, you know you're not going to get away without a photo here.
Yeah.
So. And we'll get a two-wheel dolly for the rest of these.
That's what I am for. I get to carry those.
Beast of burden?
Yep.
Gentlemen?
Maybe look dead, guys. Like COVID-19 was 19.
Yes, sir.
Is he really? One more. Good.
Can I get a special one?
Why?
Because. No whining.
You can leave your...
Oh, but those are everyone else's resolutions.
You can have him back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What?
Photo.
Okay, good.
Presidential prerogative. So there you go. Awesome.
Ooh, they're glittery.
They're glittery, yeah. And shiny.
Didn't this supposed to put them together?
The glittery resolution.
And you're welcome to stay, and you're also welcome to beat feet, so.
I'll stay for a bit.
Pardon me?
I'll stay for a bit.
Oh, there you go, there you go. All right, well, and we now join our regularly scheduled agenda already in progress. We'll move back to our public comment portion. Do we have anyone in the audience wishing to address the board in the first public comment portion? Sir, please, come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Lima, 7774 Litchfield Drive, Mentor. As you're probably aware, heard, or read, bipartisan bills have been introduced into the Ohio House and Senate to reform the bail system in Ohio. The reform, if passed, will become Ohio law. The House bill, introduced by Representatives Leland and Hillier and Senators McCauley and Stephen Huffman, will have a significant impact on those who stay behind bars based on the amount of money that they have. There appears to be widespread support in the legislature for this legislation. 51 of the 132 members of the General Assembly have signed on as sponsors or co-sponsors. Our own Jamie Callender and Daniel Troy are House co-sponsors. Ohio Supreme Court Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor supports the legislation. Whether you pose a threat will be a major focus of a judge's decision to either detain an individual or to employ other options. Judges will also have to justify their decisions in writing. Decisions will have to be made in a timely manner. Bails, if set, would require a judge to take into consideration the individual's income, expenses, and debts, rather than using a fixed bail amount. So, how might this affect Lake County and the idea of a new jail? It would be a significant impact. Based on my calculations using the jail roster from April 30th of this year, 168 inmates were either awaiting trial or sentencing. That's 51%. The sheriff's data from 2019 indicated that 46% of the inmates were unsentenced. Another group, Police Scorecard, found that in 2018, the average jail population was 328, and that 44% of those incarcerated in the Lake County Jail were there without being convicted. These data indicate that a significant number of individuals held in jail pre-trial would not be there under the provisions of the proposed bipartisan legislation. The reduction in jail population will likely solve any overcrowding phenomena and the need for a new facility. The actions by our legislators should give us pause in considering a new jail for Lake County. Thank you.
Just a quick question regarding the, people waiting for sentencing. Isn't that kind of a deferral, though? Once they're sentenced, they're going to be in the jail. So there might be that few weeks or a month but once that, it's kind of like in the pipeline. That's one thing that I never hear in these type of discussions.
Well, the data doesn't distinguish between those who are there because they can't make bail and those who are awaiting sentencing. So I don't have that data.
Okay, because in my mind, I'm just going to kind of put it in monetary terms. It's kind of like deferring a payment. You might get that extra month of relief, but you still owe it. So they're going to pay their debt to society. It's just that lag time. It might seem like we could reduce it, and it might be a short-term reduction, but the long-term is those folks are then going to be sentenced. So the categories just flip. And then you have some people who are coming off their sentences, some new people coming into the system. I'm just trying to find some data on that,
right.
too. So in your research, if you find anything like that.
Right. There are data that indicate that poor individuals and especially people of color who do not have the monetary resources to make cash bail amounts that are set spend an inordinate amount of time in jail pre-trial. And these are people who have been charged but have not gone to trial. And so this particular legislation that is being proposed directly addresses that particular problem.
But the one thing that I have seen, in, again, reviewing similar data, they also normally get credit for time served. So it's kind of, it nets out as a wash. That's the one thing that...
Well, that's provided they're convicted.
Well, if they're waiting sentencing, that means that they've already been convicted.
Well, if they're waiting sentencing, yes. I'm particularly interested in those who are there pre-trial.
Pre-trial, okay.
Right.
Okay, that's the distinction. Very good. Thank you,
Thank
sir. Anything for Mr. Lima? Very good. Thank you, sir, as always. Okay, anyone else in the audience wish? Yes, sir.
Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive, Concord Township. I come back from 1 week in rainy San Diego and everything turns to mush here. So I received some calls the first day back regarding the voting machines, and the individual said, Brian, do you know that they're going to spend $400,000 on equipment? And I said, well, no, you're incorrect. It's $2.8 million with $581,000 coming out of the county. And they said, no, this is an extra $400,000. And I said, well, that doesn't seem right. I didn't hear anything about $400,000. So I'm here before the commissioners to ask you, is there more money to be spent on these voting machines? I'm not making any a statement that they're not needed or anything like that. I'm just trying to figure out, well, how much money are we really spending? I'd like to know, the taxpayers would like to know how much we're really spending, and if there's an additional $400,000, can we expect something else next week or next month down the road? I'd just like to know what the total cost is.
The number I believe you're referring to is the Board of Elections at their Monday meeting approved the purchase, or the request to purchase, I should say more correctly, of kiosks. Those are the shells, if you will, on the transport that the actual voting machines themselves are installed in. And I believe the number is $406,000.
That's about a 70% increase. I mean, it's substantial. And if there were going to be some upcharges, I would expect, 10,000 or something like that, but a 70% increase. It concerns me, and I would just ask the question, why wouldn't the Board of Elections come before the commissioners and, with a total package originally? So I think that's a fair question.
It's a fair question. I would encourage you to pose that to the Board of Elections. As we're going through the process, I think we're waiting for the requisition auditor certificate of fund availability. I believe where you have to do a transfer of funds to put monies aside for that. So there's a multiple step process. I don't believe this will be hitting our agenda until early June. I'm going to look back to Mike Matus. Mike's nodding yes. Mike Matus, our budget and finance director. One of the things that I'm taking this from memory, so please don't hold me to this as absolute. There will be, I believe it's a $70,000 a year maintenance fee kicking in. That was on, or part of the discussion of the purchase of the equipment. I believe that kicks in after the first year, maybe into the second year. So that would be part of it. And in addition to the $406,000, there is talk about carts, transport, so that you can move more than one of these at a time. There's some discussion with local vendors, custom manufacturers, to put something together that would be of use and facilitate the transport and deployment, and as well as the housing of these devices as well. But that, I don't have a number on that. I know they're acquiring that. Gentlemen, I don't know if you have any more information than I do, if you want to add anything.
So it's an extra $70,000. The $70,000, is that hardware maintenance or is that software updates?
I believe that's all of the above.
Mr. President,
Sir.
if I could jump in, it is an additional expense, but not over what we usually expend. There is a maintenance fee that we currently pay for the old machines, and my understanding from the presentation we had, I think it was 2 meetings back, is that we'll actually have a somewhat lower annual maintenance expense with the new machine. So it is an expense, but it's lower than what we currently pay.
On the software update, I just thought of this, that if there are software updates, how are the software updates done? Are they done from the ES&S corporate offices and they just downloaded? Or does someone actually physically come to our site and actually update the software? That's an important point.
And in fairness, that's a question that would have to be posed to the Board of Elections. I can tell you any updates, any modifications would all have to be in compliance with the certificate of compliance. Every hardware item, every software, I'm looking to legal to make sure I'm hitting the key points. They're
Yes.
all certified, sir.
Mr. President, it would have to go through the Board of Voting Machine Examiners, which is a statutory body in the revised code.
The reason I mentioned I'm really focusing in on the idea that the machines cannot be accessed from outside. So I would hope that any software updates would mean that someone is coming physically to our machines and actually updating them on site and not remotely. The other thing that I heard that we're thinking about unloading the old equipment, actually discarding it, or ES&S is going to pick it up. And I asked the question, why are we getting rid of the old equipment? We haven't received the new equipment yet, and isn't there, some wisdom in maintaining that, just in case something doesn't, work right? And I also found there is a U.S. Code 20701, retention of preservation of records and papers for like 22 months after the election date. So I would consider the actual physical machines as included as part of that preservation, and not just some paper rolls. Am I off base on that, or?
I know in some states they look at the hardware. Again, I'm looking to legal, but in Ohio, Lake County, I believe the Board of Elections is retaining the paper, the roll, which is in the voting machine itself.
I would have to defer to the Board of Elections. However, I will say this. The Board of Elections, again, is by statute, and the Secretary of State is the chief elections officer of the state. Our local Board of Elections gets all its directives from the Secretary of State, and yes, the Secretary of State, there's communication or requirements to follow the federal law on that. Now, with regard to the disposal of the old voting machines, Secretary of State does have a prescribed form that has to be filled out when any local Board of Elections wants to get rid of the machinery because it's defunct, no longer usable for the purpose with which it was bought, and that's required to be sent to the Secretary of State. I know that was done in this issue, in this instance, just recently, and the Secretary of State accepted that form. They had to file it with Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State approved it.
So that's a public record also, then?
It would be.
Okay. All right, I've got 2 other issues, but I will speak at the next public meeting.
And if I could, on the old equipment, there is a resolution required by this board to also authorize the disposal of that equipment, being county assets.
Correct.
And to your point, speaking only for myself, not this board, and this is the venue for openness, discussion, deliberations, I do not feel comfortable releasing the equipment for disposal until the new equipment is brought in and accepted. I know our Board of Elections has high confidence in ES&S. I respect our Board of Elections. They're fine people, they're diligent, they're hardworking. I am concerned just in the purchase of the equipment. It took them 3 bites at the apple to get the sales order right. I want to make sure that the equipment comes in and functions. As our Director of Elections, Ross McDonald, did say, yes, we could run another election with these machines if we had to. I hope that never is the case, but I will tell you I'm very conservative. I don't want to throw out what we have that works in anticipation of new coming in. I am personally concerned about it.
Yeah, if I would err on the side of caution, and unless there's a space restriction or that's an issue, and they have to get rid of the machines to free up space for something else, that would be another thing. But if space is not the issue, I just wonder why not hold on to them for 6 months or a year.
And to your point, and again, I don't want to speak for the board, but I can say that they had kind of like King Solomon split the baby. Well, we'll dispose of half and keep half to free up floor space. The county has other properties where we could store the old equipment if that became an issue.
Okay.
Is it a problem to, as far as, I'm sure there needs to be a tracking history with each piece of equipment. I believe we can provide that. Again, I yield to our Board of Elections as to what they're statutorily required to do. Again, they're fine people. In no way is this meant to be any kind of a lack of confidence in their capabilities. I'm just concerned disposing of what you've got that works in anticipation of something new coming in that hasn't been accepted. I had a little challenge with the manufacturer getting the sales order right now. It bothers me. Hopefully there's absolutely nothing to it. But again, this is just me speaking. I don't know if my colleagues want to chime in on this, but it is of concern to me.
Yeah, well, I'm concerned that we did not know, the taxpayers did not know right up front what the total cost was. I mean, I can understand some cost overruns, but a 70%. So I'll take that up with Mr. McDonald and the Board of Elections. So.
And in fairness, I'm going to look back to Mike Matus. Mike, didn't we have about 1.2 million set aside?
Yeah, actually, the commissioners received an email from myself concerning this $400,000 expenditure. At the present time, they were not ready to recommend which ones they would like to you guys. But yes, we do have a little over 1.1 million set aside for this.
Mike Matus confirming that number, also giving a little bit of background for those who might not have been able to hear that there was some discussion as to what type of equipment would be purchased. Would it be the type of kiosk that they decided on, or another manufacturer? I think it was a custom build, if I remember correctly. You're nodding in affirm. Okay. So hopefully, Mr. Massey, that...
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, anyone else in the audience wishing to address the board? None being seen. Jason Boyd, County Administrator, do we have any electronic submissions for the board? And first public comment. Indicating none. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, I do believe we have an amended agenda, so what was put out there's a new item 12, I think will be the only change. Other than that, if you wish to begin with the resolutions.
In the engineer's office, resolution to advertise for bids for the Bates Road and County Line Road reconstruction project, Madison Township, Ohio. Bates Road OPWC number to be determined. County Line Road OPWC number to be determined. LCE project number 2020-012, bid opening June 9, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion. Jim, I believe this is yet another example of promises made, promises kept.
Well, we always promise things.
Yeah, and keeping it's the hard part. But
that's the hard part.
That we have been doing.
Well, we've been working hard at it, that's for sure. This is a project that is out there on County Line Road. We are in a process of doing 2 phases on County Line Road. This is the first one. This will be a complete reconstruct with new drainage and so forth. And the same thing is true on the other road. Let me put my glasses on so I can see what road that was.
It's that one with the yellow line down
Bates. All right, we've got so many going on these days.
Oh, yeah.
On Bates Road, we're going to bid these projects together primarily for cost savings. There is a savings, and the larger the project, the cheaper the cost as a rule. So we'll be moving forward right away on this as part of the overall summer program that we do.
Very good. Gentlemen, any questions for our engineer? Very good. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plans and specifications for Quail Hollow Number 10, Subdivision Phase 2, Concord Township.
Move to approve?
Second.
And discussion, Joe, Jason, did you want to give a little background? Sure. Joe? Okay. You're kind of a new face up here, so
Yeah.
for your name and your department there.
Joseph Rose, Planner 1 with the Planning and Community Development Department under Dave Radacci. Just real quick, this was a pretty straightforward subdivision. This was, I believe, the final phase of the overall Quail Hollow PUD over in Concord Township, just to the east side of Cryle Road. This was only 8 sublots, about 3.5 acres, with a single access point of a small cul-de-sac, which they're calling Duck Blind Court. Like I said, this will be the conclusion of, I believe, the overall PUD in Quail Hollow. The plans, I believe, have been approved by all the reviewing agencies. Everything's ready to move forward. We're in the final stages of the subdivision process.
Very good. Gentlemen, any questions? Joe, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Utilities Department, resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $570,287.30 for sanitary sewers for Brookview Reserve Phase 1 subdivision in the City of Mentor, job number 21-07.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, a little background.
It's just another new subdivision in the city of Mentor.
That's as little background as we can get. Well said. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution certifying unpaid sewer and water sums and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $473,900 for State Route 174 and 84, 750,000 gallon standpipe tank painting project number 436W, and advertising for bids for the same, bid opening June 16, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Randy, did you want to add anything beyond the description?
Sure. This is part of our capital improvement plan for 2021. These standpipes, this is a standpipe at 174 and 84. Typically these paintings last anywhere from about 15 to 20 years. And this is at its end of its useful life. Well, it just needs to upgrade with the paint, and that should do us for another 15 years or so. And we have 7, so about every other year we end up painting a tank.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Further discussion?
Mr. President,
Sir.
by standpipe tank, I think we're referring to a water tower.
It is a water tower, yeah, and this is just describing the style of the water tower. So the standpipe actually sits on the ground as opposed to an elevated tank.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $1,389,260 for Lakeshore Trunk Sewer Rehabilitation Project number 438S, and advertising for bids for the same, bid opening June 16, 2021.
Move to approve?
Second.
Discussion. Randy?
Sure. This is a rehabilitation of our sanitary sewer, trunk sewer that goes into our wastewater treatment plant in Mentor. It's a combination of some 30-inch pipe and some 24-inch pipe that we're going to line. The pipes are about 55 or 60 years old and are just in need of some rehabilitation to get them to last another 100 or so years.
Very good. Further discussion? Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $39,096.20 for a water line for Quail Hollow number 10 Phase 2 subdivision in Concord Township, job number 20-63.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving plan specifications and estimates of cost in the amount of $39,002.70 for a sanitary sewer main for Quail Hollow Number 10, Phase 2 subdivision in Concord Township, job number 20-53.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Sir.
it would be foolhardy to approve a water line without a sewer line for the same subdivision. It's got to go somewhere.
It's good to get expert testimony.
Assuming sanitary sewer is available in that neighborhood, yep, I'll go with that. Well said. Water in, water out. Yes, ma'am, save me.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution authorizing execution of Amendment Number 1 to the Sanitary Sewer System Improvement Agreement with R.W. Sidley Incorporated and the Board of Lake County Commissioners.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion. Randy, do you want to give us a little background on that one?
Sure. Back in 2005, we entered into an agreement with R.W. Sidley to construct some sanitary infrastructure in order to provide sanitary sewer to their property in Painesville Township. It's a significant project. It involves a pump station near the Grand River, a force main, and some 24-inch sanitary sewers that are going to go underneath State Route 2 and the railroad bridge there near Calamity Curve on State Route 20. So it's a very large project. The property owners agreed to pay for a little bit over half of the project. Typically, that's how these larger infrastructure projects are going to go in, when there's participation by the property owners. As part of the agreement, then, because they essentially paid for more than half of the project, they would be able to utilize half the capacity that it provided. And then the county, our department then would fund the rest of the project and make sewers available to other areas near that area. When 2008 recession hit, we were asked to kind of slow down and not perform the project by the Sidley company, the owners. And now recently they've asked to proceed with the project. Obviously the numbers, the cost of the project have grown significantly. So this amendment just clarifies what the amount of capacity that the Sidleys will be, or that property will be due to that property as part of their participation in the project.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution accepting the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 in order to receive and expend federal funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Jason, anything you need to add, or is it pretty self-explanatory? So we have our budget director and our administrative arm wrestling who's going to come up here, so.
I drew the short straw.
You drew the short straw. Well, come on, Mike. Everybody's missing the back of your head all these times, yeah? You work so quietly behind the scenes.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
The next two commissioners, the next two resolutions, commissioners, are accepting the federal dollars from the American Rescue Act plan that the county allotment is, as well as emergency rental assistant program number 2. While we're doing acceptances, we have to go into a grant portal this time and accept the funds. We had to have a SAMS number, which we do, a DUNS number, and a federal ID number. So after this adoption today, I'll be going in, and I believe Mary and Norman will be going in for the emergency rental. I'll be going in on our behalf and approving that. So, and it usually takes 4 to 5 days to get the funds in there. Also, a couple resolutions down, you'll see the establishment of 2 funds to track this revenue and expenditure line items. In the resolution, it only includes the revenue line items because there is very minimal guidance out right now. It's a 158-page interim final rule that we're waiting for more guidance. Myself and I know the auditor's office have attended a couple webinars and so forth with that, as well as Mr. Boyd, concerning those to see the eligible uses for our allotment.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, further discussion?
Mr. President?
Sir.
I just want to point out that while every locality that was approved by the American Rescue Plan received some funds, you talk a lot about the crew and the important work that they do. The emergency rental assistance was not something that was automatically given to Lake County or to other government subdivisions. That's something our crew had to apply for, work for, and brought more money to Lake County as a result of their efforts. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Very good. And I'm sure we'll talk more when we get to item 11 on that one. Well, Mary's not going to get away that easy, right? Okay, if there's nothing further, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution accepting the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 for emergency rental assistance in order to receive and expend federal funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion. Marion, this one's your briar patch. Did you want to add to the conversation?
I thought Mike was getting me off the hook.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Good
No,
to
no,
see you
no
all,
such
commissioners.
luck.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
no. Got to get me up here. So
Another one working behind the scenes.
yes, yes. Talking to all the people who really put these funds in action. The emergency rental assistance number 1, that is just about under contract. We did bring it to this body to release the request for proposals and quotes and all that. And we're staying local, which it seems that this board and Lake County wants us to do. There's a partnership that has been implementing funds that have come via the state, and we're going to stick with them. They did have some nice coverage in the News Herald on Monday, so look back at that, find it in your online edition. But Lifeline and Fair Housing Resource Center have gotten over $1 million out the door to stabilize households. This is another round. It's under the American Rescue Plan, as mentioned, and it'll bring another in excess of $5 million for this effort. It'll target persons below or households below 80% of median income. It can pay back rent. It can pay future rent and utilities in 3-month increments. And it can pay for the staff that is helping to implement these programs. And they've been working hard, they're tired, and there needs to be more of them. So this influx of additional money will help keep this effort going. But happy to answer questions. I didn't have something prepared for you.
No, you did that perfect. It's pretty obvious you live and breathe this. Gentlemen, anything to add?
Just thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Indeed.
Good to see you all.
Thank you. Ma'am. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing the Lake County Sheriff to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Watercraft to obtain matching funds in the amount of $34,987.97 for Marine Patrol for the year 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion? I'll just add this is a usual request. I believe the county's contribution would be $11,662.66. If there's nothing else to add, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $931,518.80.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $371,135.38.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations through various non-general fund accounts.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution transferring appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution establishing a fund to be known as American Rescue Plan Act.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution establishing a fund to be known as Emergency Rental Assistance Program Number 2.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Okay. This brings us to our departmental reports portion of our meeting. Utilities. Randy?
Nothing further today, Commissioner. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And let's see, county engineer. Well, hey, county engineer. You're on my mind. You're sitting right there. What do you got? Anything good?
Nothing good today, Commissioner. However, we'll have something juicy in the future.
Ooh.
And it's near future.
Near future. So how's Madison Avenue coming? That reconstruction and whatnot? Or is that the juicy one?
Well, that's a juicy one. We'll be discussing that one soon. But it's, they've already started on the wall. They've planed part of the pavement. They're working on the catch basins, and they've laid down an intermediate course. So it's working forward, and all the residents are nervous as can be.
Ah, gotcha. Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, Lake County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Good morning, Commissioners. Very brief today. I know Mike and Marion referenced the American Rescue Plan Act. Just to give you a status, American Rescue Plan, excuse me. The county will be receiving approximately $44 million. I know I've spoken with the commissioners kind of individually. We are weaving our way through the guidance that's available. As far as projects, there's a couple key categories that are on the books now. Clearly, any sort of assistance in response of the COVID effort. I know we've talked about assisting with some of the vaccine costs throughout the community. Joe Busher and his team are working through the FEMA reimbursement process, and whatever delta is left or not reimbursed, we will help the communities with some of their costs to make them whole. There's some business grants and loans opportunities. I'm trying to get a better understanding of what the parameters are with those. There's some water, sewer, broadband opportunities. Once again, these are kind of bullet point narratives that we need to get a better understanding. I've kind of spoke informally with Mr. Roethlisberger on any potential projects that we may have. And the fourth bucket is escaping me at the moment. But the moral of the story, excuse me? Yes, anything in our nonprofit world is also eligible uses. So I will continue with Mike, the county auditor's office, and Mr. Hackman to kind of continue to sift through this, and more than likely get together with the board in the near future to start to narrow those guardrails and see in which direction we want to proceed. So that's where we are on the ARP. And secondly, I wish Ron was still here. February 28th, 2020, we called a meeting with Ron. I was just checking my emails. Joe Busher and some folks, and say, hey, what if this COVID-19 thing really moves? And we said, probably should have another one. March the 4th, we had an all department head, judges, everyone at the county meeting at the EOC, and began to play out scenarios, kind of a desktop, if you will. Communications, Paul Stefanko was there, internet connections, work from home strategies, PPE. And the moral of the story is, I'm willing to bet a couple bucks that not every county had that foresight. Clearly, we are prepared to plan with the Perry plant. March the 9th, a week later, was the first announced public case in Cuyahoga County. And we didn't have our game plan in pen, but we had some notes on pencil. So I knew my first call was where it was going and what folks needed to do. So Ron was at that meeting. I remember him giving us what they knew about COVID-19 at the time, what the science was telling them, where they were tracking, and it wasn't but 5 days later that the first case was announced. So we had a meeting on the 28th of February with a small group,
accelerated that to March 4th with everyone at the county. I remember judges in the room. I don't know, Randy, if you were probably there, on how are we going to operate water plants? Are we connected? So just, I've used this term in the past, an attaboy to the Lake County team. And then I remember the first call with Mayor Morley. I don't know if it was on the March 11th or 12th once I got out of the hospital. And he said, we need mayors and managers to get together as often as possible. And I think it was daily for a while, every morning at 9 o'clock. The communication and the successful communication, I can't stress how important that has been. I can only count on one hand some disagreements, and those disagreements through factual debate and dialogue ultimately became consensus, unanimous consensus. So that's my 2-minute lecture on, you were given the attaboys today, and I felt that the foresight that the county had from top to bottom really helped us get through this. And we still got a little bit of time to go here in the game, but I think I said it last week. A year ago, I saw a light coming at us, and I didn't know what that was. And I think now we're at the end of that tunnel. So, and I want to thank you guys for letting us do what we do, and we'll get through this. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. So we'll consider that. You, sir. Yes. Don't go nowhere.
I have a comment on your 44 million rescue plan.
Yes, sir.
I noticed that roads and bridges are no longer considered infrastructure. I find that very interesting.
Yeah. Yes. To your point, we'll just consider that part of our COVID report.
Yep.
The health district, they have moved more to the walk-ins, the more direct business intervention, and there just isn't the demand for the large-scale vaccination sites. So they are continuing to adapt. Our public safety forces are continuing to function in a supportive role. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the state will continue to fund the nurses that they're providing, because without them it's going to be yet another local cost that we're going to have to contend with.
Yeah.
But just wanted to get that in there. So.
And if I may speak to Mr. Gill's point, the infrastructure bullet point is way narrower than I thought it was going to be. It's disappointing, to be honest. I had a call Monday with about, 30 to 35 administrators throughout the state, and it was, are we missing something? What page is infrastructure? Where is this? And now there's a lot of great avenues in there, but we're hearing at every level of government, above grade, below grade infrastructure is a huge priority, and then it's not in there. So we'll keep digging, but I concur with your thoughts. Thanks.
Well said. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President?
Sir.
2 things. First, seconding our county engineer's point, leave it to Washington, D.C. to spend money they don't have and to forget what infrastructure means. But more importantly for us here in Lake County, the one attaboy that Jason can't give is to himself. And I will say, as the newest commissioner, I've really gotten a sense of the hard work that our county administrator, Jason Boyd, does and has been doing for us. I have supreme confidence in him. It's a job that not a lot of residents know about. In many ways, he's the city manager or mayor of Lake County. He manages all of our staff. He works with residents on a daily basis. There's really nothing he doesn't have a hand in, and is incredibly humble about the hard work he does. So thank you for all of your work, Jason. I know that every resident who's gotten to work with you appreciates it, but many people appreciate the work you do without knowing you're the one who does it. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Pleshnik, and if I may echo and amplify that, Jason did make mention of being in the hospital, so I'll say Jason and I had a little bit of a running gag going. The last time he was in the hospital, we kind of sprung something he never thought could get taken care of. We cleaned up a 13-year oops. So it's like, how can we top that? Yeah, pandemic. And to Jason's credit, from his hospital bed, he was continuing to perform and provide value to the people of Lake County. So I would be remiss. I know I've mentioned this in the past, but if it's worth saying once, it's worth continuing to say, Jason, we are blessed to have you, and you and your team, our team. That's a true service to the people of Lake County. Commissioner Young, anything you want to add, sir?
Just ditto.
Ditto good.
Well said.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Yes, I wanted to mention that the next commissioners meeting is going to be on Thursday, May 27th at 10 a.m. and that's all.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Legal.
No reports, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business come before this board? Very good. New business. Do we have new business? Very good. Okay, moving on to our second public comment. Mr. Massey, I believe you had something, sir? Thank you, sir.
Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive in Concord Township. I have two items come before the commissioners. The first one is a public records request that I made of our treasurer, Lorraine Fendi. I asked for a breakdown of who owns the $359 million that are currently invested. I wanted to know a breakdown of what entity has what amount. And what they sent to me via Mike DeLeon of the prosecutor's office was nothing more than the investment report by Meters Investment, I believe that's the name. So I'm asking the commissioners, where do I go? I have sent another email to Mr. DeLeon and Ms. Fendi, again, trying to reiterate what I'm really asking for, and if I can't get it, can the commissioners provide it to me, or do I have to go through the court system?
Dave Hackman, can you comment?
Yes. First of all, yes, I was familiar with your request, Mr. Massey, and yes, you requested who owned the funds. And I believe, I don't have it in front of me, you mentioned individuals as well as nonprofits. I did speak with Ms. Fendi. Obviously, what I discussed with her is attorney-client privilege. I can tell you, no individuals or nonprofit funds are in the investment pool with the Meter Group. It's all Lake County money, whether it's general fund money, tax levy money, things like that. So,
So I was not succinct or clear enough in what I was asking for. I mean, if there's $40 or $50 million of the 359 is for the Deepwood, I'd like to know that. If the Adams Board has 10, 20, $30 million, I'd like to know that. So perhaps I was not explicit enough. I just needed to know, here's a listing of all of the entities or individuals or nonprofit, whatever that entity is that has claim to the 359 million. I'd like to know that. So would you like me to send another records request amplifying that?
perhaps we can have a discussion, but I'd like to just finish with
Okay,
my
certainly.
mindset here. Again, I can't tell you what Ms. Fendi and I spoke about. I will tell you that I do think absolutely legitimately we could have said no such records responsive to your request. No individuals and no nonprofits have money in our investment pool. Sometimes when I sit down with an elected official or otherwise and I'm talking to that individual about a records request, we do, well, every time, we give them the list of options that they have in responding to it. If they have records responsive, we'll take care of it, we'll get them out. Once in a while, well, every time, if there's a request that is not, we don't have the records responsive to it, we mention that to the elected official. We can prepare a response saying no such records exist, and that would be the end of it. Well, I've dealt with some elected officials that say, well, Dave, I'd rather give some, I think they need to know, they want more, I think this may be what they're asking for, and so we'll make such a response. There's no deception when we give another record. We are completely transparent.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, maybe we can have a discussion as to exactly what it is you're looking for, and if that record exists, and what you're describing here now sounds like it does, we can get through that.
Okay, can we meet after this?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move on to my second item. Really the bane of my existence is the Visitors Bureau, but I contacted three Concord trustees, Amy Lucci, Morgan McIntosh, and Carl Darndorfer, asking for their support to defund the Visitors Bureau. The point that I'm trying to make, that I'm not making any accusations that there was anything nefarious going on in the Visitors Bureau. I'm just saying that the citizens demand that any entity, be they a nonprofit, 501c6, or whatever they're called, if they're receiving taxpayer funds, they must be transparent, and they should be subject to the Ohio Sunshine Laws, Open Meetings Act, and to the Public Records Request. That is my basic, what I am trying to get to. Now, Mr. McIntosh sent me an email, and he said there are a couple of reasons why he believed the Concord trustees are unable to take a position regarding this issue. First, he said, I have found, and I'm quoting, I have found little appetite in the commissioner's office to defund the Visitors Bureau. Is that correct, as it's currently constituted?
Speaking for myself, I'll let my colleagues comment. I will say, just a little bit of history, when the Visitors Bureau looked at our appointments as a recommendation, not an appointment, I'm looking to legal, the discussion heated up. I had a spirited yet productive conversation with Neil Stein, their executive director. I would say my conversation with their board president, Amy Sabbath, was incredibly productive and candid. It did result in their board expanding rather than staying tight. Being a 501c6, I believe, if I understand the requirements, that substantial funding needs to come from their membership, not just government. By expanding their board, I believe that is going to accomplish that. I believe they're taking steps in the right direction to be as open as possible. I am disappointed by some of the positions as far as their stance, but I can see where they've tempered that. They're good partners, but I too would like to see more. I don't believe there's anything nefarious going on. They've got good people they're serving. They have, I believe they have a plan, and I believe that they're executing that plan reasonably. But I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate your concerns, and I think that's something that it bears repeating. So I think I've given you a very long answer to a short question, but there's a little history.
Well, nothing stays, constant. There's always changing of personnel, and what I'm also concerned about is that there's some quid pro quo that could be going on. That from the standpoint that, let's say we're supporting the wineries. All right. I think we need to support the wineries, a big economic driver. But what I also don't want to do is I don't want to see any of the wineries, contributing to inordinate amounts to any politician. So that's a problem, and so we agree that going back to what Mr. McIntosh was saying, that there's agreement the Visitors Bureau is conducting good work. That was sort of a given with me. Again, the whole driver, for this thing is that the responsibility of the citizens, as we see, is to make sure that we are good citizens and that we are checking what is happening with the taxpayer dollars. And we're saying Lobbyists for Citizens is willing to sit in on meetings held by the Visitors Bureau, but they won't let us. We are willing to do the needful as good citizens to ensure that they are doing exactly what they say they are doing. But when they exclude the citizens from their meetings, it then casts a shadow or doubt that I'm saying we're shining light on in that darkness. Some people say there's no darkness there. I'm saying prove it to us by making it a county body that is responsible and accountable to the commissioners, because Jeff Ruppel stood right here on this podium and said that they are a self-governing body. And any suggestions or commitments by the commissioners are merely just recommendations to that board. So you're not you may put 3 people on their board, but you're not in control of anything. They're in control of that $1 million plus, and I'm trying to get that across to people in the community who say that I am mistaken. So can I say right now that the commissioners have no control, and the Visitors Bureau is not accountable to the commissioners?
I'll look to legal, but I believe by statute, if you want to.
You're correct, Commissioner. I'll go back to Trustee McIntosh's statement, and he indicated to you that the Board of Commissioners has no appetite for defunding, something like that.
Yeah.
As a matter of law, this board cannot defund the Visitors Bureau. This is a statute problem, quite frankly, and I've agreed with you in the past. There should be complete transparency of any county monies going to the Visitors Bureau. However, the way the statute is written, this Board of Commissioners, when the bed tax is passed, the money collected on that, or the portion thereof, shall be distributed to the Visitors and Conventions Bureau operating within the county. That's almost verbatim what it says. So this board has no choice. It has to turn those monies over as long as the bed tax is in place.
And that's one of the distinctions. This board could repeal that. The other is if another Visitors Bureau and Convention were a competing body, or they voluntarily chose to fold into being another body. There's a number of mechanisms that would be voluntary and that could be imposed, but kind of like your question about the public records request, you have to ask the question the right way. Well, welcome to government.
Right. So
Makes your head hurt sometimes.
yes, sir.
Commissioner Young.
What is the Visitors Bureau's responsibility in reference to open meetings?
In reference to what, Commissioner?
Open meetings.
That's a very good question. They are not considered a public body.
Right.
In fact, here in Lake County, a lawsuit was filed in Judge Lucci's room. And Judge Lucci, 2 defendants were named, this Board of Commissioners and the Visitors Bureau, a different group on the Board of Commissioners at that time. And motions to dismiss were filed. One of the claims, I believe, was the Visitors Bureau was a public body subject to Open Meetings Act. And Judge Lucci granted the motions to dismiss. Then that case went up to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals affirmed the trial court, Judge Lucci, meaning the court correctly dismissed the case. And there was, again, part of the claim was that the Visitors Bureau is a public body subject to Open Meetings Act, and the 11th District Court didn't agree with that. So that's why the trial court was affirmed.
Yeah, there should have been a better lawyer on that case, I think.
Well,
all right, boys.
So the bottom line is, it is not a public body, and so they're not subject to Open Meetings Act. Their records are not considered public records. Query whether they should be.
So then we forward monies to them on a regular basis, the county, and how they spend that money it's strictly up to them. There's no accounting to the public. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they are a separate corporation under Title 17, nonprofit corporation, and my personal opinion is we should be able to see how they spend it exactly, but that's not how the law is written at this point in time.
Mr. Hackman, if I may ask a question, are you in agreement that if the commissioners folded the current Visitors Bureau into, let's say, the Port Authority or into another governmental body, I'm not saying eliminate any of the people, I'm just saying change the structure away from the 501c6 so that they are then mandated by the Ohio Sunshine Laws that they must allow people into their meetings and subject to the public records. I'm not talking about disbanding anything.
Are you suggesting somehow pulling the people that are currently in the Visitors Bureau and making them employees of the county?
If whatever structure seems to make sense, so that the $1 million that they're receiving indicates that they are a public body and they must be held accountable to the Sunshine Laws. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't know the actual mechanism that makes that happen, but I would think that certainly is a possibility, because I think the commissioners, if I were sitting in one of those three chairs, I'd like to be able to know where the money is being spent.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. I think I even made a statement in the past. It can be run by the county. I did a little research on that. I'm not exactly convinced of that. So I don't know if they can.
So it's a definite maybe then, right?
Definite maybe.
Okay.
Now, again, what if a nonprofit starts up and there's two nonprofit visitors bureaus? Not too clear in the law if you can fund only one of them, or do you have to fund both?
And those are the nuances, but I would say one of the possibilities that had been discussed just as backup plans would be somehow becoming a division of the Port Authority, because they do have broad authority.
Oh, so that is possible, okay.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it was something that was discussed. I don't want to Mr. Hackman's point, what is the statutory authority? But again, as a 501c6, this board does not have the authority to compel them to do anything. Now,
no.
Could we, I'm reluctant to use the words defund, but could we repeal their funding source? I think the net effect to that would be yes, but I think that's a nuclear option, and there's other more persuasive things, and I think that's where dialogue and talking things through have been productive. But to your point about openness, that is a legitimate concern and a matter subject for fair debate.
Well, thank you, Commissioners. I will use this as an opportunity to continue to shine light on the Visitors Bureau, and the people will know what is happening. And I think you have confirmed what I've been saying for for several years now on this Visitors Bureau. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Young.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I almost said Serino. Oh, I'm so sorry. Commissioner Plechnik. I'm just so used to Jerry being here. So.
Mr. President.
Which is a hint of how long this discussion has been going on about the Visitors Bureau.
So Mr. Massey said if I were a commissioner, I would want to know. And I do want to know. I want to know everything about how our public tax dollars are spent. So firstly, I would say I understand the very legally precise way that Mr. Hackman described public records requests, and how sometimes there are no records that are responsive to the request because no one created a record that, say, lists out precisely how the $359 some odd million are really allocated amongst the various government agencies in Lake County. I think that should exist. So let me say that if in further review the record that Mr. Massey doesn't want does not exist, I personally request that it be created because I need to review it. And then please give a copy to Mr. Massey. I think it's important for us to understand what these accounts consist of in a global way. I think we generally know, but nonetheless having one document that explains it in one place is useful for our understanding as commissioners and for the public's understanding.
Thank you.
But it's a cop-out. And I think Mr. Hackman was being very polite. It's a cop-out to say, ha-ha, no document that is exactly like the document you asked for exists, and it's very easy to respond, no records are responsive to the request. It complies with the law, but it doesn't comply with our obligation to be transparent. So let's take a closer look. Let's see if what Mr. Massey wants is there. If it's not, let's create it so that our commissioners and our public have reference to it. Second, with respect to the Visitors Bureau, I share Mr. Hackman and I think my fellow commissioners' desire to see more accountability. The best answer any lawyer ever gave is it depends. And if I'm not mistaken, no county has ever dealt with the issue of competing visitors bureaus or defunding the visitors bureau before. So it is a definite maybe as to what would happen if the commissioners took action to either repeal the bed tax or to create a competing visitors bureau and either give it part or all of the funding. If Judge Plechnik heard the case, he'd say, yes, the commissioners have this authority. But looking at it from the perspective as a professor or an attorney, I'd say I'd probably peg it as a better than 50% chance, maybe even a 75-80% chance that a carefully crafted solution could allow you to defund the Visitors Bureau if you wanted to use that nuclear option. But I'm aware that in the first public records lawsuit that Mr. Hackman described, that the attorney you referenced, that Mr. Massey brought pro se, that it, according to Mr. Ruppel, cost the Visitors Bureau about $20,000. So bear in mind how much legal work you put in on your end. It cost them, I think, about $20,000 on theirs. Specifically $20,000 taxpayer dollars, because as Mr. Massey points out, the Visitors Bureau is largely funded by the bed tax that are paid for by the hotels in this county. So these are tax dollars being spent, and lawsuits are unfortunate. I would be remiss to say my first go-to option would be to say, let's try something that may or may not work legally, but will definitely cause a lawsuit, that will definitely result in the Visitors Bureau and the commissioners using taxpayer-funded attorneys to duke it out for 2 to 3 years. You were able to bring your suit for free, but if the county brings a lawsuit, if the Visitors Bureau brings a lawsuit, I think it's safe to say tens of thousands of dollars will be spent that would be better spent promoting Lake County businesses and wineries. I don't rule out a nuclear option. Walk softly but carry a big stick. I think it's important for everyone to understand that there are checks and balances, and that if the Visitors Bureau were to go too far or would be unwilling to listen to the public and the commissioners, that there are things on the table. But to go there first when it's not 100% clear that the authority is there, I think would be a risk, that we would spend a substantial amount of tax dollars litigating who's right. And, Mayor Morley said, I say no nonsense. I've been remarkably consistent about this. When the mayor of Willoughby Hills said, I want to sue my city, I said, heck no, you're going to waste taxpayer dollars. And I think it's a bad thing when government agencies are suing one another. It's never a good look, because ultimately you're spending taxpayer dollars and nobody wins but the lawyers. The law professor in me is going cha-ching, but the public servant in me says we don't want government agencies suing each other if at all possible. Now, in response to President Hamercheck and the commission's push, the Visitors Bureau went back on their initial stance that no members would be appointed by the commission. They were more reasonable. They heard the need for some accountability, and in response to the request that we all made at this dais, they allowed us to appoint 3 of the members as opposed to simply recommend. That's a small step forward, as the president said. They've started to work with us. I personally would like to see them voluntarily subject themselves to the sunshine and public records laws. The Ohio Republican Party is one example of an agency that you could argue is public or private, and they've dealt with those requests, and rather than litigate it, they said, you know what, we should be transparent. It's not about what the law says, it's about what we should do. And we can also eliminate these legal issues and contests just by saying, you know what, make a public records request, we'll respond to it. I'd like to see the Visitors Bureau voluntarily amend their bylaws to do that, because at the end of the day, the Visitors Bureau is all about shining a light on the great things in Lake County. If you or the News Herald or 1,000 people want to come to their meeting and hear about how we're the best place to live, work, play, and retire, how we have the best wineries in Madison, which I'm confident, by the way, that elected officials have given a lot more money to the wineries in Lake County than they have given back to them. Let me just say that. I'm confident that we've spent a lot more there than they've ever made in contributions the other way. I think that's a good thing all around, but I would like us to try to push as hard as we can to get there through a conversation rather than a very expensive lawsuit. I don't take anything off the table. And if the Visitors Bureau today were to say, we're going to hire we're going to hire this random person for $1 million a year as the wineries are, and that person were then to give, $100,000 contributions to every countywide elected official. Well, that would be very concerning, and I think that nuclear options we'd need to look at that in this case. But no one, not even yourself, is alleging that anything was done wrong with the money. What you're saying, and I agree with you, and Mr. Hackman agrees with you, and I think all the commissioners have said they agree with you, more transparency would be a good thing. The Visitors Bureau would be operating in an even more strong and community-minded manner if you could sit there, if I could sit there and hear all the good work that they're doing. I'll say one more thing. I don't want to disagree with Mr. Hackman. I just want to add to his analysis of your case. The judge in the appellate decision very artfully avoided the question of whether the Visitors Bureau is a public entity. They said they had no need to reach it because what you were referring to was a purely informational meeting. And even a public body like the commissioners can have a purely informational meeting. And I think that there's more incentive for the Visitors Bureau to consider transparency, given that someone could turn right around, bring another lawsuit after making a public records request they deny, and say squarely, are you a public entity or not? As you said, if there were a better lawyer who squarely asked the question, and I say better lawyer tongue-in-cheek because I think for a concerned citizen without a law degree, you do pretty well.
Thank you.
But if that question were to be squarely asked, if you were to make a public records request to the Visitors Bureau, they denied it, and then you were to go to court, you could even potentially go to the Rocket Docket in Columbus, pretty recent change to the law that allows you to go to Franklin County and bring a public records lawsuit very inexpensively, very quickly. You could squarely ask the question, are they a public entity or not? And I personally, if I were the judge on that case, I would say yes, they are, because they're principally funded by the county. They do traditionally governmental services to the county and economic development, and they have some members of their board appointed by a government body, aka the Lake County Commissioners. I think on balance, you look at the factors, they probably are a public entity. But whether they are or not should be beside the point, because just as the commissioners are public servants, the members of the Visitors Bureau board are public servants as well, and we should be looking at what's best for the county, not what we can legally get away with. There are plenty of things the commissioners could legally do that would be unwise. There are plenty of things the Visitors Bureau can do that would be unwise but nonetheless legal. And I think it's unwise to close the books because it implies that there's something untoward that they don't want people to see, which I think there's nothing further from the truth. I believe the Visitors Bureau is doing great work for our county. I think they're a good partner to both the Port Authority and the commissioners. And I think that if they open their books fully and allowed you and the News Herald and every resident of Lake County to see their meetings, I think they would receive much deserved praise for the good work they're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Pleshnik. If I can just add to that, Lobbyists for Citizens approach is in dealing with any governmental agency or any nonprofit. We make the statement, tell us how we can help you so that you can help the citizens of Lake County. This is not about throwing anybody under the bus, but it's being good citizens and doing our role as citizens to help our governmental officials so that they can continue to do the good work for the people of Lake County. That's all this is really about. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just would like to...
Please, go
John,
ahead. No, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. I hear what everybody's saying, and it makes perfect sense. I also believe the Visitors Bureau is doing good work. And I won't go into the details, but I've heard a lot from business owners, from private citizens, from other Visitors Bureaus around the state, that the type of work we're doing here has really taken a step up over the last year or so. At the same time, though, when it comes to a legal view and how to deal with this organization, it depends. I know you didn't mean it this way, but it depends isn't a good enough answer for us. And you agree with that, I'm sure. And so I'd like to ask legal to create some sort of a framework for us to deal with this organization, which we all believe is doing a good job. I think we all believe that. And we're not unhappy with their performance, fulfilling their major mandate, which is to attract more visitors to Lake County, obviously. In that category, they're doing well. Now, in the category of public relations, just how they're spending the people's money, et cetera, it sounds like we have some real problems here. So if we could talk after the meeting today, I'd like to know some basic things, like just prepare you a little bit. If a second nonprofit were to start up in Lake County, what could that mean? Would it mean we'd have to split the monies that we're giving to the Visitors Bureau in half? Would it mean, now it depends probably, but I'd like to get some idea of just how we might deal with that. If it comes down to changing the legislation, what would the new legislation look like? We have a lot of good relationships in Columbus, and this appears to be a fairly common sense, straightforward argument that we could take down there in reference to rewriting legislation, not with a bias of any sort against our current Visitors Bureau, but just so we could operate better as a county, keeping track of our funds and controlling our funds. I hate to be in a position where we have to hand out money to any group that's labeled as a Visitors Bureau, any nonprofit. If maybe I was misunderstanding some of your earlier comments. Things like the appointment of board members. That shouldn't be a sort of a long-term, I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend, we can work together, give us 3 more appointments. It's good we were able to do that, but at the same time, I would think there could be a better clear-cut definition as to how the board members should be appointed. So I'm looking for some kind of definitive process as to how we deal with the Visitors Bureau on an ongoing basis, and just how we could arrive there. If we would take legislation, obviously that's long-term. Maybe we just take some sort of written agreement with the county and the Visitors Bureau.
I'd be glad to talk with you after the meeting, with you individually, Commissioner Young, and give you my understanding of what the law is. I'm not a policy, I'm a legal advisor. I don't make policy, but sure. I'd be happy to have that conversation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
And just to revisit, Dave, this was part of our discussion at some point in the past. If another nonprofit were to organize and call themselves a Visitors Bureau convention, we would not be compelled to have to give them funding. They could make a claim, they could ask.
Mr. President, can I say this to Mr. Hackman, because I know he's going to agree? Repeat after me. It depends. We don't know. That's the problem. It's a case of first impression. So maybe the commissioners choose which Visitors Bureau is the one true Visitors Bureau. Maybe they both receive funding. To my knowledge, it's never happened before.
And also, the statute talks in terms of Visitors Bureau singular, not plural.
And the other discussion that had been had in the past was contracting with another county. It doesn't have to be a Lake County body. Other counties do have combined or joint visitors bureaus, but I think you're going to find that the Lake County Visitors Bureau, and especially the Ashtabula County Visitors Bureau, they're partnering and working very well together, and I would call that a force multiplier. It does not address your openness and transparency concern, but I just want to let you know that there are things that are very productive that are taking place. And again, a number of options had been looked at in the past. So just in the interest of getting it all out on the table as much as possible, I wanted to share that as well. So
I believe Faith has it.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We're good to go. Batter up.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Massey.
I will be brief.
Well, at least you didn't say you'll be short.
Smarty pants. Okay. I did want to correct Commissioner Professor over there. You know I love you. But pro se defendants do have to pay filing fees. They don't get to file anything for free. And they don't have the benefit of an attorney's legal mind like yourself. They're winging it. The fact that Mr. Massey filed a pro se, case against anyone, or a body of the commissioners, the Visitors Bureau, and took that on, I think it's courageous. Because really, in many cases, that's the only option that the public has, is to go into litigation. So, it's not free, and if you lose, which he did, you got to pay attorney's fees for the other side, I think. I don't know. Not sure how that happened.
Attorneys, if I may, Mr. President.
Please.
Attorney's fees are always a potential. In our case, we did not ask for attorney's fees, and Judge Lucci, I believe, he found it inappropriate to charge Mr. Massey with attorney's fees. I believe the Visitors Bureau may have, I don't recall.
Yeah, they did, on appeal.
Well, our office did not, because we discussed it in-house, didn't feel it was appropriate.
Okay, very good. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is, in line with the crew and how wonderful our staff is here in the county, and you'll be hearing about this a little bit, down the road, but when I came in, grant writing was outsourced. And I brought it in-house because I thought, just like you guys do, that we've got some good people and they can do that kind of stuff for us. One of my staff did write a grant for the Ohio Supreme Court Technology Grant. Judge Lucci, we needed a sponsor. Judge Lucci agreed to sponsor the grant. My new IT director, Deb, submitted it because it was all online. You had to do it all online and everything. I was in Columbus this week with the state association. When I got the news, we got the grant. Woo-hoo. So it's about $44,000 maybe and some change. We're going to be using it to finish our old historic imaging of the old historic access to justice. We have about 80 grand in that project now, so we've expended considerable resources, and we asked for the money to finish it off. And we got it. So I want to thank, the judge. It's just an example of us all coming together as one big, Lake County family. And, so again, access to justice and the grant of taxpayer money. I love grants, okay, because they come, without, we don't have to pay it back. So thank you. That's all I had.
Very good. Thank you. Well done.
Mr. President,
Sir.
I just want to acknowledge the extraordinary achievements that our clerk has had since she's joined the Lake County team, but the way that you have upgraded your IT department since you joined, this grant is just an exemplar of how you took a department that had a long way to go and you've brought it top notch in just a few months. It's really extraordinary how you've transformed it and brought in new talent.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Lima.
Dave Lima, 7774 Litchfield Drive in Mentor. Just a point of clarification, and if I'm not mistaken, the American Rescue Plan Act is what is bringing the $44 million to Lake County. The infrastructure plan has not been passed by Congress. So there are two separate plans. The American Rescue Plan was designed mainly to mitigate the harmful effects of the COVID pandemic. We'll see what happens with the infrastructure plan. So infrastructure was not necessarily a part of the American Rescue Plan, as our county engineer was indicating.
It actually was called out, but then they further defined it, I believe, and I'm going to look back to Jason. Broadband, water, sewer, those were the three examples of infrastructure they really drilled down on. It initially, when it was talked about, sounded more the traditional infrastructure, but if you could show a connection to mitigation of COVID or addressing COVID, or similar.
But I think roads and bridges are being proposed in the yet to pass infrastructure plan that the administration is proposing. So there are two separate plans.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else? Jason, do we have any electronic submissions for public comment in the second section?
Do not.
Jason Boyd, County Administrator, indicating none. Okay, with that, we'll close the second public comment portion. We do have a request for executive session, the purpose being real estate acquisition. There'll be no business to be conducted afterwards. Do we have a motion to adjourn for reason given?
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you. This meeting stands